and welcome to this special series in the run-up to Budget 2025. We are being joined by Pranjul Bhandari, who is the Chief India and Indonesia Economist at HSBC. Pranjul, appreciate your time. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will be presenting her 8th budget on 1st of February. What are your expectations for the government's fiscal deficit targets in Budget 2025, and how do you see the government balancing its growth and inflation objectives in the upcoming budget?
Yeah, look, that's a very good question. It's a very complex backdrop this time. We have a lot of global uncertainties domestically as well. Growth has been slowing. So what the budget does is going to have important bearing on the economy, at least for the next couple of quarters. Now, the thing is that there are two things we need to worry about. One is growth and the other is macro stability. Macro stability means that everything in your economy should be in order. It should be an economy which is well run. Inflation should be low, fiscal deficit should be low. And from that perspective, the government had announced that it will bring down its fiscal deficit in the next financial year from about 4.9% to about 4.4%. And the question is whether they'll actually do that. Will they walk the talk? My sense is that they will. Because if they don't, then there will be a sense that India is not following rules. India is not stable. So from that perspective, I think the fiscal deficit will be reduced from 4.9 to 4.4, as has been promised by the Ministry of Finance for the last couple of years. So we are expecting this fiscal consolidation.
Okay,
the problem with fiscal consolidation...
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, the problem with fiscal consolidation is that it hurts growth. You don't want to bring down government spending. But unfortunately, we just have to live with it. These are not easy times. We have to make tough decisions. Our best bet is that from the money that we have, from the fiscal space we have, can we use it more for more growth enhancing expenditure and lessen it for growth, those expenditures that are not as growth enhancing? And I think that is going to be the careful art that the budget tries to do. My sense is that it has been a government which for the last couple of years has focused on capex, capital expenditure, infrastructure, roads, rails, telecom, urban development. And I think that is something that will continue because in the short run, it creates jobs for people who work in these sectors. It also gives construction industry an impetus. And over the medium term, you have new roads, you have new bridges, so you can create more growth. So our sense is that it will be a capex-oriented budget.
Ms. Bhandari, because the urban consumption has gone down, do you anticipate any significant changes to personal income tax rates or slabs in this budget? And, do you think government can also adjust corporate tax rates or introduce new tax incentives to promote economic growth?
Yeah, so look, that has been a demand by many people that cut tax rates and give consumers a fillip. But the truth is that this is the government which is really trying to balance its budget and actually bring down the deficit. It's going to be very hard for them to do major cuts in taxes at this point of time. So while there might be some small tweaks in, personal income tax thresholds, I don't see, a big tax cut being the main focus of this budget. And therefore, our sense is that, if you're thinking consumers are going to get a huge impetus with the tax cut, you might be disappointed. But I must also say that we have a lot of states in India which have been giving a lot of free money to a lot of parts of the economy, to many individuals, cash transfers. And my sense is eventually states will do the consumer stimulus and the center will do the capex stimulus. They'll sort of divvy up this whole responsibility between them. So from that perspective, I do think some small tweaks here and there on taxes, but nothing significantly important to alter the consumer's growth trajectory in the economy.
Okay, so you are giving us a sense that indication perhaps would be that there could be little or no relief for the middle class. But when we look at sector-specific expectations, what are your expectations for allocation of key sectors like infrastructure? As you said, it will be capex oriented. What about healthcare, education in the upcoming budget? And do you think the government need to support particularly the MSME, which has been impacted the most by the global economic uncertainty and also the pandemic?
Yeah, so I think within CapEx, roads and rails have generally been the most important sectors in terms of the money that the government puts forth. My sense is railways will remain a very important sector because a lot of spending, repair, new tracks, all of that is going on. So rails will be one. The other thing I think will be urban infrastructure. In that, the central government and the state governments together have been doing a lot of partnership projects. So I think that is something that will continue. I also think that there will be, some push to affordable housing. It is something that has been, close to the heart of the current prime minister for the last several years, and I think, some extra money could be put into that as well. So rails, urban infrastructure, and housing, I think, will be the three important areas for at least the capex. And then when it comes to health and education, many times it's not just about putting extra money. It's also about getting your policies right. It's almost easy to say that, oh, I'll put money and the sector will revive. So I think what we really need for some of the softer infrastructure is better policies. And I hope that makes way into this budget as well.
And Ms. Bhandari, what do you think will be the big, bold next round of reforms that Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman can initiate?
Look, that's a good question. And there's a huge opportunity knocking at our door. Supply chains around the world are getting rechecked. China is now producing a lot more in other countries and then selling to advanced economies. We can be a beneficiary of that as well. We weren't really a beneficiary of that 5-6 years ago. There were many other economies who were beneficiaries. We were not. If we can dare to be different, when at a time when the world is turning more protectionist, we can actually lower our import tariffs. We can go ahead and sign free trade agreements with many advanced economies, and we can let the currency, our rupee, be a flexible currency. Then our sense is that in the next few years, we can benefit a lot from FDI, manufacturing FDI coming into our country in mid-tech sectors, people putting up factories in our country, creating jobs, and then whatever we produce, we actually export it to advanced economies with a made in India written in it, rather than, made in some other country, which has been happening for the last couple of years. This is a very rare opportunity because supply chains getting rejigged don't happen very often. They happened about 10 years ago and we didn't benefit very much. It's happening again now, and my sense is we can really go ahead and take a lot of benefits from that if we get up some of our policies right. And I really hope the Finance Ministry and the budget focuses on this in the upcoming budget.
Since you say that it's an opportunity knocking at our doors, do you think the government is not able to sense it? And if we missed the bus 10 years ago, then what gives you confidence that we'll not miss the bus again?
Look, I won't put it like that. I think there was a time that we were doing very well, like last 2 years, on many high-tech sectors, right? We were getting FDI into digital startups. Our digital public infrastructure was like doing wondrous work. We were doing very well in some of the high-tech manufacturing in mobile phones, in pharmaceuticals, automobile parts, and we got good growth for the last 2 years on the back of that. The problem with high-tech is it's not very labor-intensive. So we got the growth, but we didn't get the jobs. And when we didn't get the jobs, we didn't get people out there buying things and making your growth run for longer. What we need now is the same magic we did in high-tech manufacturing 2 years ago to do that same magic in mid-tech manufacturing. Things more like textiles, toys, furniture, footwear, for which supply chains around the world are getting rejigged. And today, if we can attract that FDI into our country, we can actually create more jobs, because these are far more jobs intensive than high tech. So look, there's different courses for different times, and I think the course for now is more mid-tech than high tech.
But Ms. Bhandari, is there a sense also among the economists like you that the big elephant in the room, which is the AI, has to be addressed also through policy? And that should be perhaps the bigger concern if the jobs are being taken away by artificial intelligence.
Well, look, that's a far more complex, discussion to have. As in, I think there will be winners and there will be losers, and the net impact for every country will be very different. So this is a very complex conversation. But I sort of simplify it a bit and say that my sense is that in the short run, it could benefit India. in the medium term, there are a lot of uncertainties. And the reason I'm saying in the short run it could benefit India is because many advanced economies are setting up their AI infrastructure. Many MNCs around the world are trying to become AI ready. And the Indian IT can actually support this. It can become a support system for the rest of the world as they try to become more AI ready. So from that perspective, I think we can at least in the beginning do very well. And what we do in the medium term depends on how well we are able to sort of reform ourselves and grapple with basically take new opportunities as they come our way. But I would say that we should look at it positively, at least for now.
Okay, last question, and this is about 3 wishes that you have, that you want to want Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to address in her budget speech on 1st of February.
Look, one is that you did very well when you were doing capital expenditure. It was one of the best reforms in our budget. It has really improved India's infrastructure. Continue to do that. I think that would be one. I think the number 2 would be that when the whole world is getting protectionist, you go the other way around. Yeah. Don't impose too many import tariffs. Go and reach out to other countries and get bilateral trade agreements, because we have a lot to win in terms of jobs, manufacturing, and growth. That's my second one. I think I'm sort of really passionate about this point in particular. And third is that don't try to do everything. You can't bring down the fiscal deficit and also support growth. What we are very lucky with is that inflation is really falling after a very long time. And RBI, the central bank, can do a lot of the growth heavy lifting. And we actually, just 1 week after the budget, we have the RBI policy meeting. It's the first policy meeting of the new RBI governor. And there's a lot that can be done. Rates can be cut, liquidity can be eased, some of the regulatory tightness can be reduced. And most importantly, rupee can be made more flexible, which is a great way to support industries like services, exports, and so on and so forth. So I would say these are like my top 3.
All right. Ms. Bhandari, we hope to connect with you again on 1st. So thank you for your time here on NDTV.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.